This is the new Vivo X300 Pro, and this is the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and this is my detailed comparison of both these phones. Now what I'm going to be finding out in this video together with you is if you should pay so much more for the iPhone 17 Pro Max and if the Vivo X300 Pro is actually better value for money and you should spend on Android instead of iPhone. Anyway, this detailed comparison will cover all the parameters that you really care about. So let's begin. If you're watching me for the first time, I'm Ashad, this is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now I'm jumping straight to the cameras. We can discuss everything else later because I know that that's what's most important about both these phones. So the sensor size of the primary camera on both these phones is the same size, by the way, but you do get a wider aperture with the Vivo. Now Vivo also has a much larger periscope camera compared to the telephoto camera that you get with the iPhone. Now interestingly, the iPhone's ultra-wide has a larger sensor paired to a wider lens as well. And Vivo's selfie camera is actually bigger than the one on the iPhone. Now these are hardware specs. Let's take a look at how they actually perform. And there are some very interesting takeaways. Now for the first time, the 24 megapixel outputs of the iPhone actually lose out to the 12.5 megapixel outputs of the Vivo. The X300 Pro offers far more natural detail retention without the kind of over sharpening that you can see in the 100% crop of the iPhone. In fact, if you want to, you can also shoot 50 megapixel high-res shots using the Vivo and it captures even more details. But let it be known that it takes a second or two to actually process the image, so you'll have to be a little patient. Now in this very complicated dynamic range scenario with the tube light and the outdoor bright sun, you can clearly tell that the iPhone actually handles it exceptionally well here, something that I actually didn't expect. It does offer better highlight control where Vivo offers better noise correction in the shadow region. Now moving on to people against a harsh backlight, iPhone's sky gradient looks good, especially with that orange, but it does tend to blow out the highlights slightly that Vivo manages to pull back. Otherwise, both are almost equally good here with a good exposure on the face as well. Now Vivo offers 3 different color profiles that you can choose from: Zeiss Natural, Vivid and Textured. And with the iPhone, by default what you get is a standard photographic style, but you have multiple photographic styles. In fact, you also do get a natural photographic style. Now if you look at the standard iPhone shots, they tend to be very close to what your eyes perceive, but slightly boosted for a bit of pop. It's actually perfect for social media shares, if you ask me. And the same is true for Vivo's Vivid mode, but Vivo's Zeiss Natural mode actually keeps things closer to neutral looking. In fact, I really like the color tuning in Vivo's AI-based food mode as well. Now, if you take a look at this sushi and the ramen, it does look poppy and pretty cool actually, if you ask me, in the Vivo compared to the iPhone. And in general, I do like Vivo's approach to color tuning as opposed to the iPhone. But again, colors like subjective, both do a very good job regardless. The skin tones are definitely Vivo's forte though, because the Zeiss Natural color mode actually brings closest to the neutral color tones that we actually saw with our own eyes. iPhone's standard skin tones are slightly warmer, again very social media ready, but not necessarily true to life. Now with the natural photographic style, you do get a slightly contrast heavy skin tone if you look at it, but I think it's better, or I don't know, you guys tell me. Now moving on to portraits, at 35mm both are equally good except for the different skin tones and white balance that you can see. At 50mm you can see that Vivo starts getting better with edge detection, especially the single strands of hair. At 85mm and 135mm, Vivo's edge detection becomes far superior to the iPhones. But if you ask me, the iPhone has leveled up quite a bit in terms of portraits this year and it comes really close to the Vivo, but I feel that Vivo actually still beats it. Alright, let me take a quick break in programming right here to remind you guys that if you like the kind of comparisons that we make or the kind of reviews that we make, it takes a lot of effort, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button, give us your support. We're trying to hit 1 million soon. Alright, now coming to low light shots, Apple and Vivo have very different ideas of processing the image. In fact, here's where all the goodwill that Vivo acquired with the great daylight processing, it sort of loses it with the kind of weird low light processing, I must say. Apple has a more naturalistic processing that favors grains for clean details, which is what most photographers prefer. In comparison, Vivo tends to overprocess, which can make smaller chunks of details a bit too sharp. Some people might even call it over sharpened. Now in this extremely low light scene, if you take a look at the 100% crop, and you will notice the exaggerated moire pattern in the Bose speaker that extends to the wall, causing this weird aberration which shouldn't have existed in the first place if Vivo wasn't over processing. Having said that, this is a problem when you look at 100% crop of the images, but when you pull back, the images do look pretty good. And also one other advantage with the Vivo is that the quality of the lens used, because it's a Zeiss lens, is so good that pinpoint sources of light light are much better controlled compared to the lens flare that you get with the iPhone, which I think is a never-ending problem for the iPhone. We've mentioned it to Apple multiple times. Many reviewers have mentioned it to Apple multiple times. I think they should just improve their lens quality now. Now, the kind of sharpening that vivo adds to the smaller ultra-wide angle sensor compared to the iPhone, that is, actually works in its favor, by the way. Which is why both in daylight ultra-wide shots and low-light ultra-wide shots, I actually prefer the Vivo to the iPhone here. Now, Vivo's 50 megapixel selfie camera is technically superior to the iPhone 17 Pro Max's. Yes, the iPhone can do landscape and portrait selfies using the selfie camera in just the portrait orientation, but you do get more details from the 50MP selfies of the Vivo. Even the HDR processing is superior with cleaner gradients, you get better edge detection in portraits, and more importantly, the low-light selfies look better. There is no AI extreme night mode, thank God. And I don't even have to say this, Vivo's tele macro cleanly beats the iPhone's macro shots. Finally, when it comes to zoom performance, again, Vivo beats the iPhone fair and square. Across all the zoom ranges that I tested, whether it's at 2x, 3.5x, 4x, 7x, 8x, 20x, and 40x, Vivo is sharper and more detailed compared to the iPhone. And that is also true for all the low-light zoom samples that I captured with both the phones. You can take a look at it one by one for yourself. Alright, now that we've spoken about the photographs, let's take a look at videos. And iPhone wins, right? I mean, that's what everybody thinks. Wrong. Things are changing fast, and how? Just take a look at the 4K 60fps SDR comparison here. Here the details are equally good on both, but Vivo has better stabilization, superior sound recording quality, and more accurate skin tones too. So now we're recording 4K 60fps video using the X300 and the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and I'm walking with these phones. I'll pan around slightly, show you guys what it looks like. I mean, who would have thunk that Vivo would actually beat the iPhone? And more importantly, if you take a look at the technicalities, the bitrate recorded in 4K 60fps SDR video is higher on the Vivo compared to the iPhone. Now, even in low light, if you look at it, the video recording on Vivo is better than the iPhone. I also captured Dolby Vision videos. Yes, you can record Dolby Vision with the Vivo, and Vivo offers a higher bitrate than the iPhone, and the quality of the video also looks better. This is such a change of status quo now. But yes, the iPhone does offer a better ultra-wide angle video recording quality with a wider field of view as well. And in selfie videos, if you look at it, both are almost equally good, so I can't really pick a winner. Now, I actually did think that Vivo might win in zoom video quality, but iPhone takes the win here, which is very surprising to me. But I do like the fact that Vivo has improved the zoom quality. The advantage with the iPhone is that you get awesome features like cinematic video, which also is available as portrait video on the Vivo, and it can shoot at 4K 60fps, but it cannot do the same things that the iPhone can. For example, switch the focus depending on who's looking where. So that's pretty cool. And the iPhone, of course, has ProRes, whereas Vivo has log video. Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, Vivo is pretty good and has leveled up, but overall, still, I would say iPhone has a slight bit of advantage in video recording. But if you consider the photography and videography all put together, if I had to pick one Pro phone as the camera phone of my choice between these two, then it would have to be the Vivo X300 Pro. And this is without me even getting into the teleconverter module, which can add 2.35x range to it. That's of course an extra accessory, you have to buy that separately, but here are some shots that we took with it, and they look fantastic at 200mm, 400mm, 800mm, and 1600mm. Now, the design of the X300 Pro hasn't changed too much from last year's X200 Pro, in that you get the same circular camera module, large circular camera module that you had with the previous edition. Now, I actually like the fact that Vivo continues with this design language and it doesn't conform to the new norm of squarish camera modules on the top right corner. You know what I'm talking about. But when you place the Vivo X300 Pro on a table and when you place the iPhone 17 Pro Max on a table, it generates a lot of height. So if you have it flat on a surface and if you're watching content, so the angle is a little skewed, right? So you'll have to use a case that can actually lift it up from the bottom as well. I mean, technically, the Vivo X300 Pro is slimmer than the iPhone 17 Pro Max, but that's if you do not count the camera module. See, it's 8mm thick. This is 8.8mm thick, but with the camera module, I'm pretty certain that it's breaching the 11mm or even close to the 12mm mark, right? Now, technically, the X300 Pro is also lighter than the iPhone 17 Pro Max, but since the iPhone 17 Pro Max now uses aluminum for the most part of the body of the phone, and there's only glass out here, it feels a little less dense this year compared to the Vivo X300 Pro, which feels denser than the 17 Pro Max. But yes, when you put them on a weighing pad, you will notice that the X300 Pro is actually lighter. Now, one thing I must mention is that despite having this large camera module, Vivo has managed to keep the weight balance in check and it doesn't feel top heavy. heavy, which is good. But overall, if you look at it, the in-hand feel of both these phones are largely similar. Now, with respect to the glass used, you get glass on the rear, but it's an unspecified version of glass. On the front, what you get is armor glass protection, and you also do get a screen protector out of the box, which is a good thing. Now, with the iPhone, you get IP68 rating, and it is rated for up to 6 meters of depth for 30 minutes. With the Vivo X300 Pro, you get IP68 and IP69 rating, but you cannot take it up to 6 meters. You can take it only up to 1.5 meters. But it will survive high pressure water jets, basically, with IP69 rating. Now, the Vivo is available in a bunch of different colors, but this dune brown color is something that I really like. It's pretty understated as opposed to the really bright orange of the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which, by the way, I also really like. That's what life is all about. Dualities, choices. You can like both. It's all right. Now, both the phones, of course, have the volume rocker and the power button, but with the Vivo, you also get the same action button that you have on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Vivo doesn't have the camera control button, though, which is there on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which I rarely ever use. Another good thing is that both these Pro phones come with USB Type-C Gen 3.2 ports at the bottom, so faster data speeds are definitely guaranteed. And interestingly, Vivo does come with ultrasonic in-display fingerprint scanner, whereas the iPhone 17 Pro Max has Face ID. Now, that is, true for most Android and, iPhone comparisons anyway. Now, truth be told, both these phones have their own distinctive identities, and if you spot one of these from really far away, you can easily identify that this is an iPhone 17 Pro Max and this is a Vivo X300 Pro or an X200 Ultra or an X200 Pro. I mean, it's still good looking, I must say that. Now, talking about the displays on both these phones, iPhone is slightly larger, but both are great OLED panels with LTPO technology, which means that they can refresh down to 1 Hz and up to 120 Hz and anywhere in between. Now, I did compare the color reproduction on both the phones, and I tried out the Pro color mode on the Vivo, and if you look at the side-by-side comparison, there is literally nothing telling the two apart in terms of the colors that the panels reproduce. In fact, with the Vivo, you also do get support for HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Vision playback on Netflix, which is fantastic. Of course, you do get Dolby Vision playback on Netflix on the iPhone as well. And it didn't matter if I've tested HDR videos on YouTube or on Netflix. The colors were spot on both and almost equally on par. And more importantly, even the brightness tuning is largely just the same. In fact, even when you take these phones outdoors, you do get very similar outdoor brightness as well. And of course, it's fantastic and it cuts out a lot of the sunlight falling directly on your display. Does this mean that there are no differences between the two panels? Well, there are. Firstly, the iPhone does have an anti-reflective coating, which gives it a bit of an advantage, especially when you're using it outdoors. Now, secondly, the bezels are slightly slimmer on Vivo compared to the already slim bezels of the iPhone. Now, Vivo also does have a tighter haptic feedback motor compared to the iPhone. It's just actually leaks better, if you ask me. And if you are closing off the multimedia experience and you talk about audio, then Vivo does have an advantage. Firstly, with Bluetooth high-res codec support, which is pretty good. Apple doesn't offer that. And secondly, with the fact that Vivo actually has louder, fuller, and richer sounding speakers, which is something that I thought I'd never say because the iPhone 17 Pro Max sounded great to me. Vivo sounds even better. Take a listen to it for yourself. Now let's talk about the performance, and I've mentioned this before, the ARM Mali Ultra G1 or G1 Ultra, I don't know the exact nomenclature, but the GPU used with the Dimensity 9500 is actually very powerful this year. And that is also evident in the benchmark scores. So we run 3D Mark Steel Nomad, in that you get higher average FPS compared to the iPhone. And even in the Solar Bay ray tracing test, the Vivo X300 Pro performs better than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But if you look at the CPU performance, I mean, iPhone clearly wins with better single core and multi-core scores. However, what matters for the performance nerds is sustained performance, right? And that's where the iPhone 17 Pro Max definitely takes a lead. The first indication is in the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme stress test. So basically, we got a better GPU stability in the 20 back-to-back runs that we had, because the X300 Pro tends to throttle a lot to keep the temperature in check. But yes, you must take a note of the fact that the X300 Pro also has a higher throughput with the best loop score and the FPS as well. Now, in real world, I actually played Genshin Impact, and this is where I realized that Vivo is really not tuning this phone for gaming performance, because you do not get consistent 60 FPS like we saw on many phones that we've tested recently. I mean, you do get an average of 59.3, I think, but it keeps fluctuating quite a bit. It's sometimes 58.7, sometimes 60.7. So yeah, it keeps fluctuating a lot. In comparison, you do get a far more stable experience with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and the heat dissipation is also slightly better with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Basically, what's happening is that we were throttling the performance to ensure that the phone doesn't get hot. So you will notice some gameplay stutters. iPhone tends to, push the limits of the temperature a little longer so that, you can actually get better stable gaming performance for longer sessions. And let's not forget that the App Store does have a lot of AAA titles, which the Play Store does not. Now, if you're looking for a phone for gaming performance and if it has to be the best flagship, then the iPhone 17 Pro Max is obviously a great choice. But the X300 Pro does have more headroom in GPU performance. That's something you have to keep in mind. Now, as for the batteries, with the X300 Pro, what you get is a large 6500 mAh silicon carbon battery. The iPhone has, I think, 5000 mAh inside. It's a lithium-ion battery, not a silicon carbon battery. But efficiency tuning of the A19 Pro has been done so well, so we are getting anywhere between 8 to 8.5 hours of screen on time, which is something I mentioned in my previous iPhone 17 Pro Max video. So it's very well-tuned battery efficiency that you get with the 17 Pro Max. I can't say the same for the X300 Pro. It's good battery efficiency. What we got is a little over 7 hours of screen on time, but it can definitely be better considering the larger battery life. I mean, anywhere between 8 to 8.5 hours would have been fantastic if you ask me. But yes, it goes without saying that the X300 Pro has faster wired charging speeds and faster wireless charging speeds compared to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, but it doesn't have MagSafe support, which the 17 Pro Max does come with. And you know what, honestly, with all the MagSafe accessories that you can get with the 17 Pro Max, I think that is one of the reasons why a lot of people love buying this phone, right? Now, the network performance is largely good on both. I really don't have anything to tell the two apart in terms of 5G capabilities, Wi-Fi, all of that. So yeah, I mean, no complaints here, so it's good, fantastic. Most phones these days are generally fantastic with that network performance. I think the only problem with network you face are probably related to the telecom and not the phone itself. 5G modems are really powerful these days. Alright, now let's talk about the software. And Vivo's running Origin OS 6 based on Android 16, and the company is promising 5+7 years of updates. And the iPhone 17 Pro Max, of course, runs on iOS 26, and Apple should easily give you 6 years of updates for the iPhone, if not more. Now, I've already discussed Origin OS 6 at length, and if you want like a detailed video, we have one on our channel. Go check it out. It should pop up right now. But let me tell you a few important upgrades. So firstly, you get faster and smoother animations. You get more lock screen customization options. You get the Office Kit for connecting your Vivo phone to any other operating system, including iOS and Mac, by the way. You also get the new Origin Island, a whole slew of new AI features, and a whole lot more. But there's still V apps pre-installed on the phone, which is like Vivo's very own app store. And if you don't switch off the notification, then it does keep sending you notifications. You probably don't want that, so switch off the notifications. That's very important to tell you. Thankfully, the X300 Pro doesn't have any unwanted bloatware apps. It does have a few third-party apps, but most of which are useful. Now, in comparison, the iOS 26, of course, with Liquid Glass, it's a looker. It's got Apple Intelligence, which obviously is not really intelligent. So overall, if you look at it from my perspective, the iOS 26 experience is more polished, it's more refined. Obviously, over the years, Apple has been refining it to a level where it just looks so good, and it's just the class leading in terms of design when it comes to software experiences. But it is definitely buggy, I must mention that. Now, with the Vivo though, Origin OS 6 is definitely a refinement over FunTouch OS, but compared to other operating systems and UI experiences, I think there is still some way to go in terms of, the icon design, the fonts, the refinement, overall refinement. I think it can be slightly better even now. There's still some room for improvement. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Alright, now we're at the conclusion, and let me break down the advantages of each phone, right? And I'll start with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So with the 17 Pro Max, you get a strong brand value, Apple, of course. You also do get a fantastic third-party accessory ecosystem out there. It's possibly the best in the world across smartphones. And of course, the first-party Apple accessory ecosystem and the whole ecosystem play is fantastic too. I mean, the Apple Watch and AirPods are great examples. And compared to the X300 Pro, hardware to hardware wise, you do get better performance tuning for better sustained performance and AAA titles in the App Store. And you also do get better battery efficiency as well. Now, the X300 Pro has a few advantages in its favor as well. First things first, you do get faster charging speeds, which I know that matters to a lot of people. And if you ask me, you get the best cameras on a Pro flagship, definitely better than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I think the iPhone 17 Pro Max is also doing a good job this year, but it's still not beating the X300 Pro. You get superior speakers, better haptic feedback tuning, something that I actually expected the iPhone to excel at. And if we have to pick out something from the performance, then you do get better GPU headroom or GPU performance headroom headroom for future Windows emulation if, the community rallies around supporting Dimensity 9500. And all things said and done, the most important factor in favor of the X300 Pro is that this Pro flagship is definitely more affordable than this Pro Max flagship. The brain says Vivo, but the heart says Apple, right? Yeah, well, that's what it is all the time. Every single time I'm comparing an Android flagship to an iPhone. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.